So we've asked all the candidates to prepare 50 words, which they're going to use to introduce themselves, because we've got lots of questions to get through. So I'm going to start with Joe. Your 50 words of introduction, please.
I'm counting. I missed the 50 words, so I think I've got it. I'm a mother of 4 children, 6 chicks, 1 dog and 1 cat. I have a passion for forest gardens and urban agriculture, trains and green spaces, mostly because I believe lawn mowing is a waste of time. I'm a master's student at the University of Waikato. I study sustainability, and to do this wonderful activity, I've put a research project on hold. That is a project that looks into understanding how sustainability messages are received in low-income communities.
Thank you. Yep. This way for the rest of the candidates, please try to stick to the 50 words. Joe?
I assume you're all here to decide who you can trust to manage our environment. On Thursday this week, the Council will make what I think is probably the largest decision it may ever have made. If you want to decide who you can trust, I think you have to look at who votes in protection of the Waikato River and who votes not to protect it.
I want improved water quality of the Waikato and the Waipa rivers with timeframes better than the Healthy River reports. Must deal effectively with biodiversity, threats to over 100 species. We need to ensure the freight increases are focused on rail. Concerned heavier trucks cause maintenance costs and safety issues. Thank you.
Hi, Lois Livingston, long-term serving councillor of Waikato Regional Council. Sometimes you need an old head to carry on the knowledge and pass it on to who's coming along behind you as far as succession goes. So that's really part of what I believe in. I'm very impressed by some of the young ones coming through in this election for the city and for the region. So I'd hope that, like Bob, you have a very close look at who votes on Thursday and the way they vote, and then make your decision on who you'd vote for the regional council, because that is such an important vote. That's our future. Thank you.
I'm standing because I want the regional council to pick up its game and turn the region's slide into turn around the region's slide into environmental decay. To achieve this, the region needs to concentrate on its core functions. Dr. Seuss can say this a lot better than me, so unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Thank you.
As former mayor of the city, I lead dynamic changes. I built the transport centre, and this heralded a new era in public transport in the city. I started a daily rail service to Auckland. I walkway around Lake Rotorua, Hamilton Lake, built the rugby stadium, 100 new kilometres of dedicated cycleways in the city. I introduced curbside recycling, built the Innovation Park, and extensive preserved tree planting. I'm a farmer businessman with an environmental and social conscience.
Thank you, candidates. So this is for all of you, and we'll start with Joe. You'll have 1 minute. Do you support the Waikato Healthy Rivers Waiora Plan and its rules, including that of limiting all land use change into dairy? Why or why not?
I support the suspension of dairy conversions and, yes, limiting the development of new dairy farms. Sorry, I'm talking to the person who asked me the question. So in that respect, absolutely, yes I do.
Caroline? Yes, absolutely. This process has been probably the most comprehensive engagement process in local government history in New Zealand. For the last 2.5, 3 years, we have had stakeholders from all of the industries and all of the community interests together, looking at the evidence and saying, how do we change, how do we make our river healthier, and what are the compromises we can do, and how can we do that without destroying our economy? And they have come up with a consensus amongst them as to what we need to do. Sadly, where we are at the moment is the Regional Council is extremely divided. And I think on Thursday there is a risk that we'll be split as to whether we in fact put this out to consultation to the community or send it back and start all over again. I think that would be an absolute offence to everybody who's been involved in this over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yes, I want to see restrictions on dairying around, particularly identifying every waterway, river area and looking at what they're doing more intensely as well. Because as soon as it becomes fine, they spread their urea, etc. on the pastures. And then the rain comes and that can actually go through the aquifers and end up in the rivers. So to me, any dairy farm near the river has got to be under the microscope. So that's very important from my point of view. So I certainly support clear objectives going around that particular healthy river plan, 3, 5 and 10-year objectives, not 50-year and 80-year objectives. Those are not objectives, they're just some pie in the sky in the distance objectives. And it's only because people won't sit down around a table and end up with some debate and say, we do need to do something, and we need to do it in shorter time frames. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I might just have to take you to task a little bit there, Barry. I've sat for the last 3 years on the Healthy Rivers Waioro Committee, and it has been one of the most wonderful privileges I've ever had as far as my time on Regional Council to be part of that, because it was a co-governance committee for the first time in New Zealand. We had our 5 iwi partners, our river iwi partners, sitting with us and making the decisions with us, as well as being fed all the information through from the consultative stakeholders group, the technical leaders group. It was amazing what has gone in to what has been put forward. Now the first 10 years is what we're looking at the moment. And that 10 years has the bulk of the major changes in it. We can't look out. We've said it's an 80-year project to get the river to start to react, because of some of the water that's coming into the river is going to be as old as that before it gets here. So we are going to have real impacts of nitrogen, particularly, coming in 50, 60, 70 years out, that is actually being on the farms today. So you can't say it's a short-term project. What we're saying, at the moment, it's a 10-year project that then leads out to the changes you want to see in your river.
The Resource Management Act has been in place in New Zealand since 1991. What achievement have we actually seen? Bugger all, in all honesty. This should have been dealt with ages ago by the Regional Council. It hasn't been, and I would like to see dairying, diffuse contamination from dairy, really concentrated on the Regional Council doing something about it. Thank you.
I disagree with the last speaker. I believe that the initiative, the Environment Waikato, now Waikato Regional Council, has been good. The Fonterra will not pick your milk up unless there's fencing on every street, period. The issue is particularly in the beef and sheep. That's the issue. That's where they need fencing to stop the cattle, the effluent directed by waterways. I believe there should be a moratorium on all dairy. We are producing too much milk powder, we're dumping it on the world market, feeding the world free, and we're doing it in a really fragile footprint of New Zealand's elite soils and producing far too much milk at too low a price and at a great detriment to our environment. A moratorium forthwith on dairying, but look, for heaven's sake, look at the sheep and beef. Fonterra will not pick your milk up if you haven't got repairing fencing. Simple as that. Get your head around it.
This question is for all candidates. Which is more delicate, our economic future or an environmental one? We'll start with Russ.
Sorry.
Which is more delicate, our economic future or our environmental one? You have 40 seconds.
Former mayoral candidate said, triple bottom line. You've got to really just mix the social impact, the financial impact, and the environmental impact. You can't take them in isolation.
That's an interesting question. What's more delicate? You can't have one without the other. You can't move forward without, for example, at the moment, New Zealand tourism is our leading industry. Our tourism relies on the green economy, so we have to actually support both. Without it, we can't go forward.
We live in the environment. The environment is us. We have to protect it. We also need to have jobs, etc., which is why the Regional Council has done some very big studies on economic development throughout the region, where the big gaps are, where the lower socioeconomic groups are, etc. That doesn't mean we have to stamp all over the environment. Tourism is probably our biggest, or going to be our biggest earner. At the moment it's dairying. That doesn't have to be the future. And I keep saying tourism is the way to go, within reason, obviously. But at least then we're celebrating our environment and getting an economic benefit.
The environment is delicate, no doubt about that. The question is, it does work, and it has to work with economic development. You can't have economic development if you don't look at your environment. It's an integrated mix, those two. I've been on Tourism Waikato board for over 10 years, and I was also a life member, so I understand the potentials around eco-tourism and also the potentials around looking after our environment in a sustainable way. So to me, the two are very much entwined, but it is delicate, the environment.
I think if we look around the world, it would be very hard to find an environment that prospers when the people inside of it are impoverished. On the other hand, I think that it's unlikely that people will prosper long term if the environment is degraded. The challenge, though, I think is a challenge not between one or the other, it's a challenge between the long term and the short term. It is very easy for us to contemplate rewards tomorrow. It's much easier for us to manage things that are actually intergenerational a long way out. And I think that's where the tension tends to be rather challenging for us. The more we get to understand the long-term impacts of our behaviour, I think the better the chances we have of making rational choices in terms of the long-term interests of human life and of our environment.
I think the environment is delicate, and that we underestimate the resilience of our economies. The economy is surprisingly resilient thing. It's a man-made construct, and we change the rules and make that work. The environment doesn't have that luxury. The environment, we have a role as people to create the resilience in the environment. So I'm actually going to say that I think that the environment is the most delicate.
This question is a show of hands. It's either a yes or a no, or if you would like to abstain from voting, you can. Please could you raise your hands if you support the use of 1080? Please can you raise your hands if you're against the use of 1080? Did anyone wish to abstain from voting? Thank you. The next question is for everybody, and it's about climate change. As a councillor, would and could you encourage the Regional Council to promote tree planting on all farms for fodder, shelter and such matters on a massive scale? We'll start with Joe. You have 30 seconds.
I think that if we're going to be the greenest region and the most organic region and the best, most sustainable region in New Zealand, Aotearoa, we need to encourage and support farmers to take this journey with us.
I think the trick of the question is the massive scale, because I'm not sure what that means. It could mean the elimination of farming. I mean, what we are doing at the moment as a regional council is working with farmers who have been voluntarily planting and fencing off parts of their farm that are less productive, and trying to learn how we can, as an organisation, enhance those activities, encourage those activities, and I guess reinforce more of them. So I think that's the challenge for us, is to work with landowners to make decisions that they are willing to make with their properties for replanting in places that in fact are not that productive. But I don't think we're going to plant over every piece of productive land.
I think tree planting is very important, and this is where we've got to get more education to the farmers around it. Many of them are educated. You speak to the young farmers of tomorrow, which I have done as Field Days General Manager over 20 years. They are really knowing about how important trees are. So trees for the environment are twofold. One, we want to see more riparian planting, so every waterway, etc., or around the waterways, that sort of thing. And the other is erosion control. The sediments going to rivers and streams are a problem. We only need to look at the Waikato River for that. So those are, it's very important to get more trees. Thank you.
Took a drive out to Raglan yesterday, and Whangaroa Harbour Care have planted over 1 million trees, and they've done it through help from us initially, from the Regional Council, through our Environmental Initiatives Fund, which I and Paula were part of setting up way back when it first started. We were also very much part of the Natural Heritage Fund. In fact, that was my idea, to have the Natural Heritage Fund, and we put that out for public consultation for a rate to be struck, and we got overwhelming support for that. And that is where we put the money into things like Hope's Bush on the way out to Raglan, Maungataltari, of course, and various other big projects. So we are doing a lot about trees, and we can do a lot more. But we also have to remember we're talking about private land in some of these cases, so it takes a lot of working with farmers, with their land.
As a regional councillor, I would like to support the funding, advocate towards funding, of course, for more planting of trees on farms. And as Barry said, I think it's actually far more important to actually look at riparian planting on farms than it is actually to just isolated trees. Cheers, thank you.
Just putting my money where my mouth is, a farm, 400 acres between Hamilton and Cambridge. We have 3,000 trees on a dairy farm. And it's not easy, because with the winter and the down, particularly the trees down, big job for the share milker. But the beauty, the shelter that it brings to the farm is just a no-brainer. It's just fabulous, because it looks good, is good, animals like it. The shade, particularly with those Frisian, the black Frisian in summer. We love trees on our farm. In any way we could advocate and support initiatives for dairy farmers to plant more trees, I would support it.
This question is for all candidates. We'll start with Barry and move to your right. What do you think are the top 3 challenges facing the Waikato region that the Regional Council could influence over the next 5 to 10 years? You have 1 minute.
Okay, the top 3 for me are water quality, and that is from the South Waikato to Port Waikato, so south of Hamilton, the Port Waikato, and that includes the Waipaha. So water quality is most important. Second is threats to the biodiversity, threats to over those 100 species of fish, plants, animals. And the third one is road freight and the increase on that, and we don't want to end up with a whole lot of road freight just charging through our roads, and it ends up costing us more. It's a safety issue, and really we need the rail. Thank you.
Probably much the same, really. Water quality, obviously, and been very much part of that. Sometimes things are about timing, and the timing is now right for that. With the treaty settlements, they have helped the Regional Council to be able to do things it wasn't able to do in the past. So that's one thing that has come out of central government that's given that ability for us to do the healthy rivers work and create these rules. The other thing, I've been co-chair of the Public Transport Committee with Hamilton City Council. I certainly think that we have We have developed a very good bus service in Hamilton, but now I'm very keen to look at the rail link to Auckland. That is something I've always been supportive of. The last 2011 report was cited as being a very negative report. In fact, it's not. It's a very positive one. It just needs to be updated, and we need to work closely with Auckland City on that, Auckland Council, and with the government, obviously. If we can get Auckland right, we can get our trains into Auckland. At the moment, we can't. So that's the main problem. And the other one, of course, would be biodiversity. We're losing so much every day.
Only three. First, these will be in no particular order. Dealing with diffuse and cumulative agricultural pollution at source, using strong and balanced regulation, as I understand is now the norm in several European countries. Reversing our overall performance with respect to loss of biodiversity. It is not enough to merely attempt to slow the rate of decline of biodiversity. The Regional Council must become more forward-thinking. Dealing with poor urban air quality in winter, particularly in Tokoroa, Taupo, Tikawiti and Patararu, where national environmental standards for ambient air are still extended every winter. And our fourth one, effectively counting any potential attempts to dilute the environmental values embodied in the Resource Management Act that may be made by central government or indeed any other elected councillors. Thanks.
I believe it's challenging the central government that are hell-bent on more dairying. Like, for instance, there's a farm talking around about 5,000 dairy cows. It's certainly not even dairying country in the plateau area. Just run off, they're reliant on palm kernel for feed. And not going to make it financially, but the problems of the waterways are absolutely profound. I believe the rail, and everyone's on weasel words. No one stood up for me when I was mayor, when I was running that rail, and it was working. And it can work bit by bit. And I heard Andrew King earlier saying, it won't work, it will work. It'll start with Tuakau, and as the pressure goes, it'll come further down to Hutley, and then it'll come to Hamilton. The Britomart, that will, with a new government, it will be rectified. Unfortunately, we have a national government that won't work with the Auckland Council. That's where the problem is, I believe. The jealousy there. So I believe, all in all, our council, Environment Waikato, would actually lessen a lot of the kind of rules and regulations that they make to make it a better and more productive region.
I'm going to say trains, although my focus isn't on trains to Auckland. That is a necessary part of what we must do, but trains are also a vital part of connecting us to Tauranga. We've got a 20-year or 30-year plan to have 2 inland ports in the Waikato, and that freight's going to have to travel on something. Also, trains are an integral part, and those tracks already exist to connect towns to Hamilton from across the region. There's a number of reasons why I say that. We have 3 massive tertiary institutions in this town. We should be bringing people and enabling them to access those. The future of work is changing. We need people to upskill. It is about the young people, but it's also about people like me who are in their, 50-ish, who have to retrain. Our jobs are changing all of the time. Oh, I got one in.
Okay, the first of those is water quality, which I've spoken about. The second of those is water allocation, water use. At the moment, we've got a first-come, first-served consenting process that says you get in, you book your water, you've got a consent, it's not available for use, even if you're not using it. That needs to change because it's been a really poor allocation of resource within our community. The third one is people and the impoverishment of people in the southern parts of our region. And you're a largely Hamilton audience, but I want you to understand the risk that we face where the Hamilton to Auckland corridor continues to grow, and other parts of our region become increasingly impoverished. Tokoroa has the highest youth suicide rate in New Zealand. Tokoroa is in quite serious social difficulties. When we start talking about the economy in this region, we have to focus on ways to try and bring some of those benefits further south into our region. We could just say a massive factory a mile inside the Waikato boundary is a great benefit of the region. The region's performing well. But actually it's not, because those benefits are not reaching the people that need to be reached. And I think as a region, we've got to start to think collectively right across our space, not just around the Hamilton area.
Council has a substantial investment fund. It has been placed into effectively a slush fund. How will you ensure that this does not disappear when the open bank resolution is enacted and if and when the banks collapse in New Zealand? We'll start with Lars. Thank you.
Well, it's hardly a slush fund. I'd like it to be a bit more slushy, actually. We have about 90 million, I think, sitting in an investment fund. Some of it is used to offset rates, which I disagree with wholeheartedly. It was never set up to offset rates. It's from the ports of Auckland. It's a fund that should be used to benefit this region as a whole. And I don't think we do enough around that. But we do use it in various ways to allow work to happen. And that's as far as it goes at the moment. But it's sat like that for so long. I was there when it was set up, where the Fay Rich Whites of this world walked into the council and convinced us that we should sell our port shares. What a stupid thing to do. That was the most stupid thing I think I ever voted on, but I didn't know any better at the time.
It's not an area of my expertise, so I would actually rely on what the expertise in the regional council staff would be telling me, and I'll be voting along that call. Thanks.
I'm thrilled that Lars mentioned that Ports of Auckland. It was a debacle. I mean, the shares came from the Ports of Auckland, bad advice, and millions, tens of millions of dollars lost. I believe the fund should be pitched. In other words, councils right throughout the region should have the opportunity to put their case forward for what they consider would be a project in their area that hopefully would benefit the region. I'll give you an example. A Founders Theatre would be a classic where that money could be invested.
20 million.
Say it quickly.
Say it quickly, it doesn't hurt. The
140.
I think that there's a great opportunity for the regional council to actually be creative, think ahead, think about future, and like was mentioned, consult across the region about how we might use that. We want clean rivers, we want transport, and we want diversification and support for dairy farms to become greener. So there's a myriad of possibilities. Doesn't mean it has to stay in the bank, doesn't mean you have to spend it all. Happy to take advice on it.
Yeah, Lois has pointed out this. The investment fund has been used by the regional council over many, many years to subsidise rates. I have a very, very strong view that that's unethical, and have led a debate within council where we've started to make some progress, where we're starting to shift that fund into an intergenerational investment fund, which is really to do exactly as Russ says, is to invest in projects across the region that are of value across generations, because that's the way this fund was originally created. We're only part way there. Some of our colleagues are very reluctant to have allowed even the progress we have made, but it is certainly my hope in the future that we'll be able to wean ourselves off dependence on that investment fund. The ratepayers should know what they're paying for and should pay the cost. That's the only basis on which they're going to be able to challenge their council to use their money properly.
I would want to put that into water quality as the number one for me for this region. So water quality is what it's all about for me. So I'd be looking for partnerships with other groups and actually receive their proposals, because they know how best to improve our water quality and the work they've done, as well as the research we have within council.
This question is to all candidates. We know there are significant quantities of glyphosates going into the river. When can we expect regional council to test for them? We'll start with Bob.
I'm sorry,
You
I
have
can't,
30 seconds.
I can't give you a comment on it. It's not something.
I am aware that council spends about 25 million on science, and so they should be monitoring these things just as they should be monitoring what's actually happening in the wastewater as well. So it's the council's job to measure any of these sort of impacts, and they should be doing that sort of thing. We need to have that data. They do spend a lot of money on that.
We do.
So we need to have the information.
We do, and I don't know how many points we have of water quality, water testing points just on the Waikato River and its tributaries, and the Waipa, Piako, the Waiho. All of these rivers have quite a number of testing points on them. They're tested for everything. And so if it was a major problem, it would probably be sitting in the 4 major things that the Healthy Rivers is looking at. They're looking at nitrogen, phosphorus, sediment and E. coli. Those are the ones that are causing the problem that we have in our rivers at the moment.
I currently contract to Waikato Regional Council, and I work in the science. I work with the scientists in the science department. As far as I'm aware of, we can't actually test for it because there isn't actually a test available in New Zealand at Health Laboratory. So it's not. It's one that we actually can't look at, and it's without that the lab actually providing a analysis for that, it can't be done, and there would be nothing to compare against unless there's a guideline value available, and there is nothing in New Zealand. Thanks.
In my view, that the regional council could do a lot more to bring the likes of the big industry giants like Balanced Fertiliser to account. They have environmental awards, and what the NPK, it just poisons the soil with rock acid. And what I do on our farm, we provide 360 tonnes of lime. And that brings the earthworms like you've never seen. But there's no money in it for the big fertiliser companies.
I think that we need to be reminded that glyphosate products usually come with a warning that say do not use near water, and there's a reason for that. And yes, I would like to see New Zealand be able to test on glyphosate and restrictions on its use.
Thank you. This question is for all the candidates. Do you think council has a role in supporting businesses, schools, families and individuals to make more sustainable choices? If no, why not? And if yes, what ideas do you have to support this? You have 1 minute, and we'll start with Joe.
Can you say that all again?
Yes,
Do you think council has a role in supporting businesses, schools, families and individuals to make more sustainable choices? If no, why not? And if yes, what ideas do you have to support this? You have 1 minute.
Yes, I do think that council has a role in those things. I think that change starts at home first, at the grassroots, and that regional council has a role in extending the programs and community coordination around education, around sustainability and sustainable choices, as well as environmentally friendly choices. They're really basic things that need to happen. The Enviro Schools project is really good. That's due to be extended now. There's plenty of room in the community, and that community houses to support family education programs. Businesses can do a lot more as well, and there's a number of projects at the University of Waikato around sustainability that could feed into the Waikato Regional Council in regard to composting food waste, especially from the entertainment district and restaurant district in town. So that'd be my first choices. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I agree with pretty well everything that Joe has said. There's been an immense amount of effort going to Enviro Schools over a very, very long time, and that's creating a whole new generation of people who are aware of the impacts of what they do with their consumption. There's also been a lot of work going on with business, but I think the rules around this are about, firstly, giving people information so that they understand the impacts of what they're doing. Secondly, to make it easy for them, as easy as we can, to make changes, so that we're not going to be able to force business to totally change what they do if it doesn't make economic sense to them. But we are able, in fact, to, I think, create processes, point out ways, point out systems that enable them, in fact, to make more rational and more constructive choices. So it's about education and it's about removing barriers, the two most powerful tools I think we've got.
Yes, for sure, and it starts very young. My wife actually does it even at preschool with worm farming and actually showing what the benefits of that are. And it goes right through the whole school network. And I do applaud a number of, there are regional councillors who have actually attended schools and worked with secondary students and so on. So I'm all for the regional council connecting with the educational community in a wider form to get information across. So to me, education is very important right through the ages, because then out the end comes your people who don't need to be told what they have to do by a series of rules in the regional council. It's going to just happen. Thank you.
This regional council gave the initial funding for Enviro Schools. Heidi Martin came to visit. She's a very convincing young woman, and we gave her the first amount of money that allowed her to set Enviro Schools up. So we actually have a coordinator on staff who works solely with Enviro Schools. So we are doing that. We also have been involved with the Sustainable Business Network, not so much now because we've got a different council, but in the old days, very much involved with the Sustainable Business Network and helping them to become more sustainable. We have dozens and dozens of care groups that we support around the region who are doing amazing work. Our EIF fund has given money to so many different individuals, groups, etc., doing amazing jobs around our region, which is really our core business too, so it makes a lot of sense to give them some money to help them do it for us instead. So we actually, as a regional council, have started a lot of these things, and we continue to support them. Sometimes not as much as I would like, or Bob, but because of the council, as we say, we've got at the moment, not so easy.
Support everything everybody else has said, but I actually would say no, and the reason being is because unless the regional council actually cleans up its own premises first and walks the talk, I don't think we should be going out there in the community and tell them how to do it. The regional council has to do it better first and lead by example, then go out. For example, they look at the vehicle fleet. Some of the, I don't know if you guys have ever driven in the council cars, some of them are appalling. They don't run well, they're not serviced well. We could go along a total electric fleet if we so wished. Thank you.
When I joined the environment Waikato, it was called then other kind of rubbish roads and footpaths and cut and slash, and I looked at the budgets and so forth. One that really took my eye was the environment schools, and I think led by Paula Southgate. It was a fantastic initiative with great outcomes, annual plan, the person's coming in to report at the award time was really one of the great things the council have done. But that's at the school level. I'd like to see that lifted to the industry level and to farmers. An example like Vaughan Jones, General Manager Field Day, 7 years. He just is such an advocate of lime. Dug on our farm, there wasn't an earthworm. Today, you dig anywhere over that 400 acres, there's worms for Africa. And where is the forum to actually promote that?
Thank you. Just wanted to remind everyone that Sarah's still available with paper and pens if you still have any questions. We have about 10 minutes left, so hopefully we'll get all of them in. This question is for all candidates. In tonight's discussions, the economic and environmental aspects of sustainability have been touched on, but little has been said about the people aspect. What would your #1 target be as a councillor to make Waikato a place people choose to live in? And we will start with Garsa.
No, I didn't.
No, he was tipping water, and we didn't hear the beginning. Sorry.
In tonight's discussion, the economic and environmental aspects of sustainability have been touched on, but less has been said about the people aspect. What would your #1 target be as a councillor to make the Waikato a place people choose to live in? You have 1 minute.
Without a doubt, I'll be concentrating on our tertiary institutes. We have some of the best facilities in New Zealand for innovation, as alluded to in our previous discussion with the Mayoral, and I'd like to see that just expanded on. Thank you.
Which way are you going?
Let's mix it up.
Do you mind if I don't stand up? I think that Bob and various other councillors have worked very hard in the recent years on a spatial plan, a strategic plan for the Waikato, and part of that has been to look at the people, as he alluded to before, and it's not just about the people of Hamilton. We live in a region, and that region feeds everything into Hamilton. Hamilton would be nothing without the region around it, as we all know. So it is about looking at our people holistically and saying, what can we as a regional council, and one of the things we can do very well is pull people together and facilitate and mediate and bring forums together where people can talk and come up with ideas. We can't fund everything. We are a rating-based organisation, and we cannot fund everything, but we can facilitate. And I think that's how we can help people.
Our community can be served by increasing our healthy, our healthy environment, which means more walkways, more cycleways. So we really do need, as a community, you need to be able to go out there, see the parks, enjoy the bushlands as I do when, especially on the fine weekends. You have to be able to appreciate those things as well as ride there and walk around our city and out into the region. You have to be able to walk onto the hilltops. You have to be able to appreciate this fantastic place we have. So it's about integrating that environment with the way we're living.
Yeah, I think picking up on a theme that I touched on earlier, my view is I'd like us to be able to say of our region that wherever you live, whoever you are, whatever your ethnicity, you have the same access to healthcare, you have the same access to education, you have the same access to employment. And I think that if we could do that, then we could assure ourselves that we're going to be a successful region. But that's a challenge, and I think one of the things that I would pick up, and Chris and I were talking about it earlier, people think of local government as the structural things that local governments do, but local government has a leadership role. It may not be the payer, it may not be the doer, but if local government is not stepping up and being the voice, then who else is? So local government must play a role in bringing together local central government agencies, local players, NGOs, community voices, and saying how are we going to resolve these issues. But for me, if we say whoever you are, wherever you are, you have the same access, we'd be going a long, long way to a better outcome than we've got today.
I think I alluded to most of where I'm about to go when I was talking to you about trains, and I didn't get round to the other 2 points. I think that Waikato has an opportunity to provide leadership, and that Waikato Regional Council and Hamilton City Council are the closest forms of democracy and politics to the people. So there's a leadership role, I agree with that. I think we need to choose what it is we want to be the leaders in. Do we want to be the greenest region in the country for all the right reasons? Do we want to be the region that successfully lifts our low-income people and reduce the income gap? Or do we want to be the region that leads New Zealand in treaty-based partnerships? We've got a number of choices, and we can choose what our identity is, and I think that's a really important question for us to answer as a region.
Well, thank you. This is... Oh, sorry.
No, the way.
I'm so sorry. I lost track.
I think it's a good question, and I really think that really is one of the better questions tonight, because Environment Waikato, Waikato Regional Council, has a huge role to improve people's well-being right throughout the region. There are regulatory requirements that councillors are abided to do, civil defence and so forth. But also, one of its mandates is economic development. And I think it's done a very poor job, because it continues to put it on to the district council or the city council. And in the end, they keep on blaming each other. That transport centre that I built was a classic. These people would do nothing to assist the transport centre, and it was a disgrace. You all probably forgot where it was. It's where the old warehouse is today. And the start of that new building started a whole new ethos as far as public transport was in the city. And it can be, other examples can be brought out, because there is money in the fund. It shouldn't be used in rates, to offset rates. It can be used in partnership. And the Bowder Sea is a classic, and that rail link to Auckland is a must, driven by Waikato Regional Council.
This is the last question for the evening, and it's a very difficult one. We'll start with Joe. What is your favourite New Zealand native bird and why?
I'm going to say the fantail. And, I should stand up, sorry. The fantail. The waka waka. Because when I was a teenager in the far north, they used to sit in the feijoa tree outside the little outdoor patch that they slept in. They kept me company. They've got a great sense of humour, and I really enjoyed them. And so as a child in the Eastern Bay of Plenty, they were prolific, and we used to play amongst them back in the day when you could, because there was just so many of them. They were cheeky, they've got a lovely song, and they're such fun for children.
I think the wood pigeon, and it's because we had a property northwest of Auckland some years ago where they used to come and feed off the berries and fall out of the trees, and I always found that an amazingly interesting experience. But locally, I mean, for me, walking around the lake today, it has to be the tui that have come back. You know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, once or twice every now and then. Now every time, they're everywhere in every tree. It's just a wonderful change.
Yes, I thought I was going to be first with the tui, but you beat me to it. I said two of them. The tui for me, because a number of things ring true. I think we're starting to make a change in a number of areas when I hear more tui than I heard 20, 30 years ago in the Waikato. So that said to me, hey, we're getting something right. And I also was at a reserve in Cambridge, and I saw a tree, and there would be at least 60 tui that were in this tree, and they were just enjoying it and the fruits of that tree. And it was just magnificent to watch it. I stood there and watched it for about 10 minutes. So that's one of the reasons why I find the tui exceptional.
They're noisy though.
You're there.
They do. I have to say it has to be the tui because, I mean, I watched Paula fight so hard for the Hamilton Halo project, and we had councillors even then who were against it. Anything that was about biodiversity they were against, which was a damn shame, and some of them are still there, which is a shame as well. There you go. Wow. So, I haven't seen it. Who? I can say you, Russ. No, I'm not saying anybody's name. So yeah, the tui. I've got Mr. Tui in my backyard, and I didn't have that a few years ago. And when I first got a tui in my backyard, I couldn't believe it. So, having come from the Manukau Harbour and the Waitakiris, etc., I had tui everywhere. But when I came to Hamilton, it was a dead city as far as native birds go. I have pea waka waka as well. So yeah, great.
Short and sweet, the Kia for its intelligence.
I thought Bob was going to say the wood pigeon because I could eat it, but I love the kingfisher. I like the plumage, but most of all, in the drought, it always tells me when it's going to rain. It never lets me down. They come just about 24 hours prior, and you guarantee within 24 hours you've got rain. Beautiful bird, love the colour, and they're my favourite bird.
So thank you very much. This is the end of the planned evening. We've actually got Crystal Beavers here who would like to just speak for 1 minute about her being a candidate for the District Health Board. and that's because we realise that around town there aren't actually many spaces for candidates to speak, so she's asked if she can have a minute, and
Thank you
you have
very
the floor.
much. And if you could give me your indulgence for just a minute, she's absolutely right. It's very hard to get around the city when people aren't holding meetings for the district health candidates. There are some people who are standing for other councils who are also district health candidates, but I'm somebody who's only standing for the district health board. My name is Crystal Beavis. I'm currently on the board and I currently chair its Disability Support Committee. I stood for the board originally 3 years ago saying that I wanted people in this region to feel lucky that they lived here. And you're all interested, obviously, this is being run by the Environment Centre, you're all interested in sustainability. Well, I'll tell you that health is one of the major parts of social sustainability. And if you want to have people who can contribute to the community, if you want people who are able to live to their fullest, you must have healthy people, and that's why I'm standing. I started life as an advocate for people. I was propelled into the health sector with interest in Diabetes Youth New Zealand. I became their president. I'm now a life member. I actually, before I came to Waikato more than 10 years ago, I sat for a term on the Auckland District Health Board. I've also had experience in the sector from working for Medicines New Zealand. So I bring all of that to being a candidate for re-election to the District Health Board. And good health means good quality of life. Now, people innately understand that. $1 every $5 that you pay in taxes goes to health. But that also means that that money has to be managed very wisely. The District Health Board is a $1.2 billion operation, so we must make sure that money is spent wisely, and we've got to make sure that it's spent on the population in this area. And you've heard some of the candidates here say, yes, we do have some very impoverished parts of our population. 60% of our population is in the rural districts, and we've got to make sure that we give people all around our district access to good health. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much to all of you who've come tonight. I'd like to give a special thank you to Forest and Bird, Generation Zero, Sustainable Waikato, Cycle Action Network and the Waikato Environment Centre for organising this event, and thank you very much to all our mayoral and Waikato Regional Council candidates, and also to the audience for coming along. Thank you very much.